What's up guys, it's Tommy here and welcome to a very exciting Liverpool transfer news video because Liverpool are preparing a club record and the British transfer record mega £135 million bid for Isak, and with bonuses and agent fees the total fee could be up to 150, maybe even 160 million pounds, and the wages of Isak are expected to be every year 15 to 18 million pounds. So over a 5-year contract, the total package of this Isak deal could be worth 250 million pounds. And guess what? Liverpool can still pull that off because of a low transfer debt, a strong cash flow and surging revenue. Liverpool can afford to spend even this amount of money. And remember that this 150 million pound transfer fee would be amortized by 5 years. So each year the cost will be like 30 million pounds, which sounds a lot more reasonable. And Craig Howe, who is a very reliable Newcastle-based journalist with close ties to Newcastle Football Club, he said that there is a very strong chance that Isak will not play for Newcastle ever again, and we understand several Newcastle teammates of Isak expect Isak to leave, and if Liverpool pay close to the 150 million pounds that Newcastle demand, then Isak will leave because Isak wants to sign for Liverpool. Fabrizio said that Liverpool is the dream club for Isak and Liverpool are ready to make a huge bid for him, and now it's on Newcastle to open the doors for his exit. And today Howe made some recent comments which actually opened the door for Liverpool, so we will reveal that later in this video. Make sure to leave a like on this video if you enjoy this, if you are excited about this Isak transfer saga, and also subscribe if you are new around here because I post daily transfer news updates, so you can get all the latest information in one video every day on my channel about Liverpool's latest transfer news activities. And Fabrizio reported on his YouTube channel that Liverpool at the moment are the only team, the only club in the running to sign Isak. Chelsea, Man United and even Al Hilal are all out of the race, even though Al Hilal offered Isak £600,000 per week contract, tax-free. Isak is absolutely not interested in going to Saudi Arabia at this stage of his career. He's at the peak of his career and he will earn a very good wage, close to £300,000 per week at Liverpool, and he wants to win trophies. And I think there are the dominoes, these are the dominoes that need to fall. So first, Liverpool are trying to sell Luis Diaz. Bayern will negotiate again with Liverpool for Luis Diaz. They want to go big with their newest offer. The verbal conversations are, that Liverpool are waiting for Bayern to stand the new bid. So it's just a matter of time. And Isak's dream is Liverpool. Now it depends on Newcastle because the player informed them of his desire to leave. So Isak already handed in pretty much a transfer request. And Liverpool can be ready to jump into it very strong and very serious with a huge bid. It's on Newcastle to decide what they want to do. But first, Liverpool want to be respectful to Newcastle and wait for Newcastle to get in a couple of players. They are in talks with Benjamin Šeško and Johan Wissa, so Newcastle could sign 2 strikers. Remember the original plan was to have Isak and Ekitike. They could end up with Šeško and Wissa, and Liverpool can be patient because Liverpool already signed Hugo Ekitike. We are already pretty much set up for the season in terms of the attack and midfield. We are working on strengthening our defense with the new centre back, but until Diaz leaves and Nunez leaves, Liverpool are sorted for the new season. Liverpool can wait for Newcastle to get a couple of players in, and after that Newcastle will be more willing to sell Isak. Let's just read between the lines, guys. If Newcastle knew that they are keeping Isak, they wouldn't sign Šeško and Johan Wissa. They wouldn't sign these players. They wouldn't be able to afford it. Šeško would cost like 60, 65, 70 million pounds and Johan Wissa 40, 45, 50 million pounds. They can't afford to spend 120 million on two strikers when they have Alex and Isak as well. And Eddie Howe actually opened the door for Alex and Isak to leave. He said this in today's interview. Of course, there are things going on behind the scenes at Newcastle. Conversations that happened between Alexander Isak and myself, and Alexander Isak and the club. But those conversations will stay private. Whatever happens has to be for the best of the club. At the moment, there are no contract talks taking place with Alexander Isak. That will be for a later date, potentially. I certainly hope he stays, and it's football. Who knows what the future may bring. So, do you see, now Eddie Howe is not saying Alexander Isak is staying, Alexander Isak is not for sale. He's saying that whatever happens has to be for the best of Newcastle. Which indicates to me that the best course of action for Newcastle right now is to sell Alexander Isak for a club record or a British transfer record transfer fee, 135, 115 million pounds, whatever it may be. And then Newcastle can strengthen in a lot of areas. Because right now, Newcastle only have one player, Anthony Elanga, signed in the past 3 or 4 transfer windows, which is a shambles by Newcastle standards, and Newcastle's lack of ambition probably is one of the reasons why Alexander Isak handed in a transfer request and wants to leave Newcastle. He doesn't want to stay at the club which are stagnates and which are just happy to play in the Champions League and to play in the Premier League. Alexander Isak wants to win those competitions, and anyhow says that Newcastle's owners, the Saudis, will decide the future of Alexander Isak and not himself. I've welcomed players back to the group, he said, and I've sold players. It's all part of being a football manager. Every situation we will take on an individual basis. But there is a wider, bigger picture here. There's a whole football club that has to make a decision. The manager has an opinion, but ultimately the decision rests with the board, especially with the money involved in modern day transfers. So basically, Eddie Howe acknowledges that for the future of Newcastle, it might be better to sell Alexander Isak now when they can get the absolute most amount of money. And remember, if they keep Alexander Isak against his wishes, then he will be an unhappy, unsettled player, not playing at his best during the season. His value will go down. And also, what message does that send to other stars at Newcastle if they want to go to a bigger club? A Liverpool, an Arsenal, Real Madrid, a Barcelona, a Bayern Munich. If somebody wants to leave Newcastle for those clubs, and Newcastle are not letting them leave, what the message does that send to those other players? So it could have an consequence of an unsettled dressing room, which is not what Newcastle want. Eddie Howe also said, I see this challenge as part of the job. I've had a good grounding at Bournemouth in my early career. When any player who did well was gone and left Bournemouth, the club will make the right decision with all the information that it has, ultimately to move the club forward. We are trying to improve the standard as best we can. Regardless of Alexander Isak's situation, the team never stands still, and that's always the way it's been. So this tone by Eddie Howe, reading between the lines, it says to me that he already spoke to Alexander Isak and Alexander Isak signaled his desire to leave, and now it's up to the board. Eddie Howe knows that the best course of action for Newcastle is to sell Alexander Isak. He said about Isak, he's very popular in the dressing room. We would love him to continue his journey at Newcastle. Things are going on behind the scenes. Conversations are happening, but no contract talks at the moment. Because why would Newcastle sit down with Alexander Isak for contract talks where Isak just told them he wants to leave the club? So it doesn't make sense. But do you follow the timeline? At first, at the beginning of the summer, Newcastle said Alexander Isak is worth 200 million, he's not for sale. And then they said he's worth 150 million, he's not for sale. And then he was sent home before the Celtic-Newcastle game because he was distracted. And then they said he's injured. Even though Craig Hope, the Newcastle-based journalist, revealed the club doctors at Newcastle did a full scan of Alexander Isak's body and they found no injury. So that was just made up by Isak, so he doesn't play and he doesn't get injured. Miraculously, Newcastle leave Alexander Isak out of their preseason tour squad, even though other players who are injured are included and travel with Newcastle to Asia. News comes out that Alexander Isak asks to leave Newcastle and he wants to explore other options. And then Newcastle are still saying he's worth 150 million and he's not for sale, but now they are targeting multiple strikers. They are in talks to sign multiple strikers, And now Eddie Howe says the club comes first and they are open to a sale if the transfer fee is right, and then they need replacements. I think you can read between the lines that Newcastle changed his stance because Alexander Isak has come out and said he wants to leave. I always told you that this will be the case. Alexander Isak needs to come out and say he wants to leave, otherwise Newcastle just will keep rejecting Liverpool's offers. But now I think there is a real potential opportunity that Liverpool will sign Alexander Isak. The big question is how much will the transfer fee be? I think it will be 130 million base fee and maybe 20 million pounds of add-ons and bonuses, some of them easier to achieve, some of them more difficult. But next is probably that Newcastle sign Šeško and Visa, and then the stance of Isak is not for sale will change, and then they will listen to Liverpool's offers. But Liverpool's first bid will be around 130 million, and then the second bid probably will be for 140 million plus add-ons and bonuses, getting close to 150 million that Newcastle want. Eddie Howe wants the money because he wants to strengthen the team, but the owners, the Saudis, are still reluctant to sell, even though they are more open to that than in recent times. This transfer deal will not be straightforward. It could go on until the end of August. Newcastle and Liverpool have already discussed the price. The fee is set, Liverpool need to meet it outright to get the deal done. Eddie Howe is desperate for reinforcements, and he knows the cash on offer is enough to make it happen. He also knows exactly where Isak's head is at. He is already dreaming about Liverpool. Liverpool's brief that of around 130 million pound package and constant mention of the British record transfer fee is no accident. They want to make that statement for a reason. Liverpool and Isak already have personal terms probably agreed in principle behind the scenes, which is why we are seeing this current standoff. It's all about Newcastle securing their replacement strikers. Šeško and Visa are the main candidates, and then Liverpool and Newcastle will sit down and talk about numbers. The problem is that Newcastle keep getting rejected by a lot of strikers that they wanted to sign so far. So I hope that Newcastle can get a couple of strikers into their building, in the door, before Liverpool sit down with Newcastle. Because otherwise, if Newcastle don't sign a couple of strikers, or even just Benjamin Šeško, I don't see them letting Isak leave, not for any price. Bayern Munich also are expected to offer 75 million euros for Luis Diaz, which is about 60 to 65 million pounds, and that will tempt Liverpool for sure, because Diaz turns 29 years old in January, and also Diaz wants to leave. Darwin Núñez is another player who could move on. Clubs in the Saudi League have been interested in Darwin Núñez. Federico Chiesa also is in talks with Italian clubs to go to Italy, back to the Serie A, so he plays regularly and he gets into the Italian national team for the World Cup. Harvey Elliott, Tyler Morton and others could also leave, and that these transfers could raise a significant amount of money. Basically, we could cover the whole Alexander Isak deal with selling Diaz, Núñez, Harvey Elliott, Chiesa and Tyler Morton. We could cover the whole Diaz deal. And remember, on the PSR, you can have total losses of 105 million pounds over a 3-year period. Liverpool lost just 9 million in 22-23 season, 57 million in the 23-24 season. That was because of the Europa League. But they would be expecting to make a small profit for last season, for the financial year ending May 31st, 2025. And even some of the losses will be exempt from PSR because they are linked to upgrading the stadium and the women's team. So PSR will be enforced for this next season that is going to start soon. But after that, it's unclear what kind of rules the Premier League will have in place, because those rules will be voted for by all the Premier League clubs. So the bottom line is Liverpool's finances are very healthy. We can spend another 200 million easily without breaching PSR rules. Winning the Premier League title just alone secured 180 million pounds in prize money, and the return of Champions League football banked around 90 million pounds additional money for Liverpool as well. So the commercial revenue in total could top 700 million pounds. New kit deal is worth 60 million pounds to begin with every season. From August the 1st, it's kicking in as well. And also last season was also the first full season where the full Anfield Road stand was operational, and that was extended. So now Anfield had more than 60,000 people capacity for the full season for the first time last season. So that is also one of the reasons why Liverpool can spend so much money. And another key element is Liverpool's discipline they have shown in the transfer market. Last season, when there weren't like great targets available, Liverpool only signed Chiesa because that was a good opportunity to sign him for 10 million, 11 million pounds, and we waited to spend big this summer. Also, the accounting practice of amortization allows Liverpool and other clubs to spread the cost of a transfer fee over the length of the player's contract, which helps with PSR compliance. And it's also clear that Richard Hughes, who is a very good friend of Eddie Howe, he handles things with real respect towards the selling club. So if Newcastle have asked him to keep Liverpool's usual media lines, Paul Joyce, James Pearce, quiet to avoid extra pressure, he will stick to that. Newcastle want a replacement lined up and agreements sorted before pushing the Isak situation further, and that's fair enough. I think that makes sense. Newcastle want a replacement, and Liverpool aren't rushing either. With Ekitike in the door, Liverpool can afford to wait for this and respect Newcastle and respect their process. Both sides know what's happening. Both sides are briefing their mouthpieces to keep the situation stable. I think this is very good. But still, that Paul Joyce article that I read, that is still hugely positive, and it keeps the fans grounded, not getting carried away, because we are still not at the stage where we can say Alexander Isak, welcome to Liverpool. But that could come in the next few days or next week. James Pearce also will post some updates, which will be very interesting, because he is also pretty much a mouthpiece for Liverpool FC. And also, the latest news is that Isak's lawyers could submit an official written transfer request to force his dream move to Liverpool. And Liverpool, the player is aware that Newcastle are trying to close deals for Benjamin Šeško and Johan Wissa. So basically, Isak is going to do absolutely everything to leave Newcastle in the summer transfer window, because his dream move is Liverpool, and I really, really hope that we can make it happen. Thanks for watching, guys. I hope you enjoyed this. What an exciting time for us Liverpool fans. This transfer window is absolutely loving it. Thanks for watching. See you later, guys. Goodbye.